Picking up where we left off last time, which was we managed to recreate what Cypress IDE, Eclipse IDE does to build our binary, and we replicate it for one specific type of a project, which is profile release. Today we are going to expand that to support the other three types, profile debug, release and debug, and also integrate it into the Microsoft Visual Studio IDE itself, so that we can use our familiar shortcuts or use the right-click mouse menu. Let's start. You know what? First things first, I do prefer my Visual Studio to be here on the taskbar, so I'm gonna do that first. More pin to taskbar, because now I can right-click here and launch my last used project, which is just an open folder. Also, since we are going to be making sure that what we build is byte to byte the same as what Cypress builds, let us go ahead and create all four types of outputs, all four kinds of projects being built, for which we will launch Easy USB Suite. And also on the background, I guess I will launch GitHub, because it will do the update. I'm pretty sure of that. It's been a while since I used this virtual machine. Now, looking at makefile, there were a few leftovers from the original makefile that came from Cypress, which we're gonna probably tackle first. This secondary target post build, we don't actually have the target at all. The dependence target doesn't exist. The secondary outputs is no go, which also should be removed from here. This is like the minimum thing to do. Also, we are going to be comparing the result of a build, and looks like there is a slight mistake here, because this should be in the target dir. Now, going back to Cypress, let's just quickly build every single one. So I'm gonna set the active configuration, hit Ctrl+B to do the build, and I'm going to speed up the video at this point, so we can speed up the video and just get over with it quickly. There we go. Everything is built, which should, if we take a look here, we have the debug, profile release. These are all built with Cypress IDE. And what we're gonna be doing now is make sure that we have the same in here in the build directory. First things first, in order to have this target dir being properly set, which is happening right over here, what we would need is another level of indirection, right? Everything can be solved with an extra layer of indirection, which would be the build type. Let's say profile release for now, just so we are clear here. And this is the build type. So nothing much changed, right? What we have is the build type being assigned this, and it should just build as it was before. However, where does that build time come from? And the answer is, it's going to be coming from basically here. You see the drop down menu where we will have multiple types of project to be built, which is specified in CppProperties.json. What we have here is this place where we can say that it's called environments. Let's do environments, and we put in here, it's a list of objects, and our only one, for now at least, is the build type, which is going to be profile release. Is that how it's called? Profile release. That's exactly how it's called. So this is for profile release. And now, since I'm a lazy developer, I'm gonna copy paste. So select Ctrl+D to duplicate, put an extra comma over here. This is profile debug, which means we're gonna provide debug in here, and also let's duplicate it once more, put an extra comma here. So this is going to be release, and obviously for the defines we don't need this CY U3P profile enabled 1 anymore, so we're gonna remove it from the release, which is not profile release, and we're gonna be saying that this build type is release, and the same goes for debug, same kind of stuff over here. So this is for the IntelliSense to know that when we are looking at the code which is in the type of debug or release, that this profile en is not defined. So we should be having, there we go, our full 4 specified configurations that we are able to work with, at least for IntelliSense for now. And as I said, environments are being set up in such a way that build type is being assigned a particular value. Coming back here, this is build type. However, what we're gonna do is, if it was provided, then we will not override it. This is what question mark equals means, that if build type is already defined, don't touch it. However, if it is not defined, then it will default to release, essentially making our build, if we run it from the Visual Studio environment, it will set up one of the configurations, but if we run it as a make outside of the Visual Studio environment, it will just pick up release and build the release build. With that said, we can go back to making sure that what we are building is correct. And there are a few things that are different between different types of configurations. Like, for example, debug and profile debug will have, instead of O3, it will have O0. Let me rearrange it a little bit. And the -G would be -G3. If we take a look at Eclipse over here, I'm sure we can find it. No, let me just copy this line. It's going to be easier to take a look at it here. So this is the line being used for compilation, and we are looking, oh, this is actually the linker. That's a linker. Let's go back and get another one for the compiler. That's the compiler. Let me put it in here and read through. What we see here is -G and O3, so this is for release. And if we are to change that into debug, let me just save this file so it does rebuild. Really? Okay, let me modify it and then rebuild. There we go. This should have the other options that we were talking about, which are the G3 instead of G and O0 instead of O3. In order to handle that, the easiest way is, of course, to make an if. So let's see how we want to do that. We want to filter the value of build type compared to either debug or profile debug, and with that, if it is not equal to just empty space, that was an extra here, there we go, if it is not equal, then it means that it was either debug or profile debug, which makes common flags plus equal the O0, well, with the dash of course, and -G3. Otherwise, and if as well, we're gonna Ctrl+D duplicate and Alt down to move it down. It's going to be that much, and of course we need to clean it up from here. Next is our flag for profile release, profile debug, which is very similar. Let me see, where is it? It's over here. This is what we need to handle. Let's do a very similar if not equal, and comma filter the value of the build type and compare it to profile release or profile debug. So if it is either one of profile release or profile debug, then we do need to add that value, which is this one over here. Let me just cut it. And the cc flags plus equal this guy over here. Now we only have it for the profile release and profile debug builds, which is what we wanted. And the other thing that is being done is this linker over here. When we link, currently we were linking for profile release, but if we take a look at the libraries that are provided with our SDK, we would notice that we have debug, profile release, and release. All these .a files which we are going to be linking against. With that, let's make a similar if equal, I suppose. We will just have a bunch of if equals. Let's compare. So if equal our build type, and if it is profile release, that is a better way of spelling it, then we use this guy. Then we say that ld flags plus equal this much. Else, if equal, and I'm too lazy, so I'm gonna just copy here, and this is profile debug, then Ctrl+D, Alt down, we're gonna be having debug over here. And now we can just Ctrl+D, basically twice anyway, and if, so we don't forget about that part. Now if we are doing debug, then we do debug, and otherwise just a catch-all, we'll be doing release. Not profile release, but release. So let's carefully check what we have here. If build type is equal to profile release, then we get the library from profile release. If it is profile debug, then it's profile debug. If it is pure debug, if eq, then it's debug, and otherwise it's a catch-all for release, which will handle the release and the no option as well. Next on our list, just to make sure that we have everything in place and correct, this guy over here is not going to be always profile release, it's going to be in the target dir, which is the build type, since we kept the names the same. So we compare what Cypress has built in a build type to what we are building with our makefile in the target directory. And the last thing left is how to actually integrate into the environment. Like this right-click menu doesn't have a build in it anywhere, and I cannot issue a build on the C file either. The compile is grayed out, and the S file is as well. So this is what we're gonna be doing now. The easiest probably starting point would be to right click over here and say configure tasks. Unfortunately, by default, I don't know why, but it goes into .vs, tasks.vs.json file. Can we open container folder? What we want to have is this file to be part of our source code tree of our folder. So let's move it up here. It was not the right place. Ctrl+Z, come on, Ctrl+Z. There we go. Let's move it again, but now appropriately. This is where it should be. Next to our CppProperties, next to our makefile, this is tasks.vs.json file. we can close it here because it doesn't exist here and open it from here. These are our tasks. There are a few different types of tasks, and the ones we're gonna be, well, first one probably is, let's take a look at the environment variables. How do they look like? So we'll create a task called env. Oh, just environment, which applies to any file. The type is launch, which is fine. What it is going to do is it's going to run a command. So command, the command would be running the command prompt, and as we all remember, the most proper way to run command prompt is using the CppProperties environment variable available in DOS, like, I don't know, 1.0 maybe, for a long time. And we are going to provide it with an argument. So args, it's a list of arguments, but we only have one of them, which is set. Effectively what it does, Ctrl+S, we saved it. What it does is, now if we right click on any of the files, it should have a menu item. It should have the menu item environment, which is right here, run environment. And now if we run environment, it will show us what is the environment it is run in. And you can take a look at all the variables, and the one which I am looking for, which I am not seeing, is the build type. Why am I not seeing that? Let's take a look at CppProperties. The CppProperties, we do have build type. However, we do need to say that when we use environment, we need to inherit from our environment. So inherit environments, and what we are inheriting is the current, so cpp active configuration. We do want to inherit from the active configuration, which is right here, this one, like really profile release. For example, right now we have a profile release. If we right click and run environment, we should be getting the build type equals profile release. Consequently, if we do a debug and we run the environment now, we would be getting debug right here. So what we have achieved is, now we have a link, a propagation of this variable from the configuration into our tasks list. Obviously environment task is just for us to play with. The real task would be to build. Let's go there. Let me duplicate this much. Let me say this is called build all. This will be applying to the root over here. So if I click on this like main folder, I would like to be able to build from this place. What it's gonna be doing is it's gonna be running a command which is cs make.exe, and we want to run it with all and j, I don't know, 8. I don't think I have even 8 cores in this virtual machine. And more importantly in here, so if we don't change that, if we leave it as launch, let me save it and show you what it looks like. It's gonna treat it as just an external command. So if I right click on the folder, it will say run build all. However, if I say no, this is actually a build command, please integrate it as such. What we're gonna be having here is once it it's not type, I'm sorry, this is called context type. Now it's not a type, because what it will say is on our right click context menu, it's right here, build. Hooray! Let's kick it, and what we are having is our build running, and it says no differences found. This was for the debug, and it goes into build debug. Just for verification, let's do profile debug, right click build. I'm not sure why does it not say configuration over here. at the top of the screen. We can probably just print at the start of the makefile what kind of build it is. Actually, let's do it right now. Why put it off? So over here, when we have a build type, we can say info build type is build type. What am I doing here? This is wrong, this is more appropriate, and this is better. So once I click on this one, I say build. At the very top, it should say build type is profile debug. Fantastic. We comparing over here. Let's just quickly check the rest of the builds so we can proceed. Let's build this one. Make sure no differences. And the last one, IoT release build. Let me verify that it is building right. We are building all the 4 types correctly without issues. Coming back to here, it is nice to have build all. What are the other things we want? We probably do want a clean, right? So let me duplicate that much. Let me do a clean all, which is obviously clean, and this is a clean context. So now what we have is we are in release, right? So in the build there is this release folder which is full of stuff that we just built. If we right click and say clean, it should all disappear. And it did. Success. And we also probably want to be able to rebuild, right? So Ctrl+D for duplicate and rebuild all, which is clean, and then all. Unfortunately, we cannot do -J here because it will affect clean and all, and it will try to parallelize, and it will try to step on its own toes, essentially. But what we need to say here is that it is a rebuild context menu. Let me see. Rebuild is right here. We have build, rebuild, and clean, which were not there before. The other thing I want to do as well is to be able to build individual C or assembly files, because right now, as you can see, it can run the environment which we have set up for everything, but it doesn't know how to build these files specifically. With that, let me just I'm lazy, so I'm gonna duplicate this again, and let me say build C file, not rebuild but build, and this will apply to all the C files. What we are going, well, it is going to be a build obviously, but in here what we need to specify is we need to say I want to build that .o file which will be placed into the build type directory, and the file name should be matching as well. How it looks like is it should go into build, into the environment variable of build type, the one which was like passed down to us from the configuration, and after that it's a predefined variable called relative file, and of course .o. With that, if we now click on the S of the C file, we should have the build option, and it probably is up to date, so it won't do much. However, if we clean and after that we do the build, it should build that one file. No rule to make file build release CY. This is funny, but it is because this backslash should be forward slash. Let me try it again, this time with feelings, and success. We have built one file. What that also means is if we are editing the file and we don't like using mouse much, so let me Ctrl+S to refresh the timestamp of this file, I can use a standard Ctrl+B keyboard shortcut, which is build this file, and there we go, you have integration. And now the last thing to do, let's do the same for the assembly files, which is in our tasks. If we go to here and we specify that the assembly files should also be built that way, which is the S, everything else stays the same. Let me try, right click, build, and we should be getting the build. I think this is it. What we have is we have the build integration into the GUI available right here, build, rebuild, clean. We can build individual files if we choose to. We can, if we come up with some other useful tasks for specific, like unit test, for example, right? We can have a folder here called unit test, and if you right click on the unit test folder, you can run the unit tests for that as a task. Or we can launch external commands. You can do whatever you want in here. There is no limit, mostly. There was something about running multiple even commands, not just one command. I didn't get too much into it, but it's available there. There is a documentation which is not that great, I have to say, but some people have figured things out, so you can always find it online in Google. With that said, I think we are ready to see what we have here. What did I modify? Oh, I don't want that. Discard the changes. This change I don't want. Let's restart GitHub desktop. That's why I launched it earlier, so it does a refresher. We will not be needing you, Cypress Easy USB suite, at least for now. So let's close you up. In here we can close this one. So quick recap, what do we have here? In CppProperties.json we have defined our configurations, which are in this drop down over here. These are our configurations that we can work with inside the Visual Studio IDE, and they are defined with defines to be used during IntelliSense session. So for example, for profiles we do have the profile enabled define, so that IntelliSense does the right thing, but if it's just a regular release or regular debug, it doesn't have that define. Unfortunately, as it turns out, there is no good way of removing the duplicates in here. There is no way to reference blocks of code, and or at least I have not found it. If you can teach me how to do it, I would be most appreciating. So this is copy-paste, which I detest with passion, but I don't think there is a way around it. The makefile now gets a build type passed down, or by default switches to release, which says which kind of build we are making. We have made changes for debug to do no optimization, and for release to have optimization. We have also picked up which libraries to link with, depending on whether it's profile release, profile debug, debug, or release. We cleaned up some of the leftovers from the original generated makefile from Cypress, and we also have specified some of the tasks which allow us to build, clean, rebuild, and also individually build C and assembly files. And obviously when we add CPP files, we will improve that as well. With that, let me commit. This is season 1, episode 6, I believe. MSVC IDE build integration. Thank you for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.